All right, so in a previous demo here, created a little program that forks a child process with a new PID namespace. And so that child sees its PID as PID 1. And of course, then the parent program, it doesn't see any change to its PID namespace. It was 374 before, and it's still 374. And it sees the child as 375. So the bulk of that demo was to show you how to use unshare and fork to set up a new PID namespace and to create a process inside of that PID namespace. Now what I want to show you how to do is, instead of writing a C++ program here, I want to show you how you can use a command at the command line instead. All right, so over at the command line, if I dump out my process ID for my current shell, that's PID 221. Now, if I were to run bash to create a subshell, when I dump out the ID for that, it's going to be about 395, so it's a bigger value. It's not 1, though. And that's because we have not created a new PID namespace. So I'll exit out of that, back into the same shell that has 221. And now if I run the unshare command and pass bash to it, I can do the same thing. I can create a bash subshell. Of course, in this case, still don't have a PID of 1, and that's because we have not yet requested a new PID namespace. So now, if I bring back my unshare, and I can add a flag in here, -p, that'll create a new PID namespace. When I do that, though, I have a little bit of an issue here. So I'll exit out of the bash shell that was created, come back here, and add a flag for fork. So this will perform the unshare, followed by the fork, which is necessary for that child process to be set up inside of a new PID namespace. So go ahead and run this. And now, if I dump out my ID, you can see it's PID 1. So this unshare command is a helpful way to play around with starting a subshell inside of a new namespace. And the cool thing about using a subshell is now we can fire off additional commands inside of a given namespace. For example, I could run the ps command here to try to look at the ps tree. And in this case, I get an error. So I'll address this in the next video in the series. For now, I just want you to see that you can inspect your environment and run commands inside of that subshell, which is inside of that namespace. And so that's a good way to learn about what's going on instead of needing to compile everything into a program in advance. And one more tidbit, if you'd like to know what the source code is for that unshare command, out on GitHub, there's a util Linux repository. If you open that up and then look inside of here for unshare, you can find the C code for the unshare command. And you can browse through here and learn about what's going on behind the scenes. For example, if in here I look for the word unshare, look for calls, you can see right here on line 1025, here's the invocation of the unshare function, just like I had in the previous program. And if you look through here for fork, you should find that too. There you go. On line 1038, there's a check to see if you passed the fork flag, and if so, it goes ahead and forks a child process.